Have you ever been told that men are simple creatures? Society has drilled this idea into our heads for decades. We are taught that men are like light switches. You flick the switch, the light comes on, and the job is done. We are told that as long as you show up and offer your body, he will be happy. We are told that unlike women, who are complex, emotional, and require a runway of romance, men are biological machines who just need a physical release to be satisfied. But let me ask you a question. If men are so simple, why does it feel like something is missing? Why does intimacy sometimes feel routine? Why does he seem distracted? Or perhaps, why does the experience feel like it's over before it truly began? Here is the truth that nobody talks about. The idea that men are simple is a lie. It is a convenient myth that leads to mediocre intimacy. Sure, it is easy to get a man to a physical finish line. Biology takes care of that. But there is a massive difference between a man having a physical release and a man having a soul-shaking, full-body experience that leaves him trembling. Most men have never actually experienced the latter. They are used to maintenance sex. They are used to intimacy that feels like a transaction. They accept it because they think that is all there is. But deep down, he craves to be unraveled just as much as you do. If you treat him like he is simple, you will get a simple reaction. But if you understand the hidden complexity of his nervous system, you can unlock a level of obsession he didn't even know he was capable of. So forget what you've been told. He isn't a light switch. He is a vault. And you are about to learn the combination. The phenomenon of faking it. Now, we need to address something uncomfortable. It is a topic that terrifies most women, yet it is a reality in bedrooms all over the world. We talk all the time about women faking satisfaction to protect a man's ego. But did you know that men fake it too? I don't necessarily mean they are faking the physical outcome, although that happens more than you think. I mean, they are faking the connection. They are faking the intensity. In our modern world, men are desensitized. Between the stress of their careers, the high-speed nature of digital entertainment, and the death grip habit many men develop from self-pleasure, their sensitivity levels are often incredibly low. When you perform oral intimacy using standard techniques, the bobbing, the basic friction, he often feels very little. He might be making noise and his body might be responding physically, but mentally, he is counting cracks in the ceiling. He is thinking about his emails. He is trying to force his brain to focus just enough to get to the finish line so he doesn't disappoint you. He isn't doing this to be mean. He is doing it because he feels broken. He assumes that numbness is normal. This is why standard techniques fail. You can put in all the effort in the world, you can tire out your jaw, and you can be enthusiastic. But if you are not engaging the specific psychological and neurological triggers that bypass his desensitization, you are just offering him a service. You are not giving him an experience. To make him have a full-body reaction where his toes curl, his back arches, and he loses all control, you have to stop trying to please his anatomy and start learning how to hack his nervous system. You have to wake him up from the numbness. The promise of the trick. So how do we break through that wall of numbness? How do we take a man who thinks he knows what to expect and show him a world of pleasure he's never seen? The answer lies in a specific technique I simply call the trick. But I want to manage your expectations right now. The trick is not just a single movement of the tongue. It isn't a magic button you press. The trick is a combination of three things: the physics of a vacuum seal, the manipulation of temperature, and the psychology of dominance. When you combine these three elements, you create a sensation that his body cannot ignore. It bypasses his logical brain and speaks directly to his primal instinct. It forces his pelvic floor to relax and his sensory receptors to fire at 100% capacity. Next, I am going to walk you through this step by step. We will cover the setup, the technique, and the mindset. If you follow this blueprint, you won't just be his partner. You will be the woman who ruined him for anyone else. Are you ready to learn the secret? Let's dive into the psychology of surrender. The psychology of surrender, why men struggle to let go. Before we can even talk about the physical technique, we have to solve a mental puzzle. Why is it so hard to make a man truly lose control? You might have noticed that even when your partner is enjoying himself, he often stays relatively quiet. Maybe he tenses up his legs, or he keeps his eyes closed, or he tries to rush the process, and he treats the climax like a mission to be accomplished rather than a wave to be ridden. This happens because most men are biologically and socially conditioned to never fully let go. Think about his daily life. From the moment he wakes up, a man feels the pressure to be the protector, the provider, and the problem solver. His brain is wired for hypervigilance. He is always scanning for threats, always calculating the next move, always holding the steering wheel of his life with a tight grip. To have a full-body orgasm, the kind where he shakes, moans, and loses track of time, he has to do the one thing that feels unnatural to him. He has to surrender. He has to be vulnerable. But vulnerability feels dangerous to the male brain. If he lets go completely, he feels exposed. So subconsciously, he keeps a guard up. He holds back a percentage of his energy just to stay safe and in control. This is the barrier that prevents the trick from working. If you just dive in with your mouth without addressing this barrier, you are banging on a locked door. You cannot force him to surrender. You have to coax him into it. You have to create an environment where his subconscious mind realizes, I don't have to drive right now. I can take my hands off the wheel. The first step to the trick isn't physical. It is granting him the permission to be weak. The power dynamic shift. This brings us to the most important mindset shift you will ever make in the bedroom. Many women view oral intimacy as an act of service. They think of it as something they do for him, almost like a favor. They get down on their knees, literally and metaphorically, and hope he approves of their performance. I want you to delete that program from your mind right now. The trick only works if you flip the power dynamic. You are not down there to serve him. You are down there to control him. When you take the lead, something magical happens to his physiology. Remember, we just discussed how tired he is of being in charge. When you approach him with confidence, when you push him back onto the bed, when you decide the pace, when you decide when to stop and when to start, you are lifting the burden of leadership off his shoulders. For the first time all day, he doesn't have to think, he just has to feel. This is why confidence is the ultimate aphrodisiac. When he feels that you are not nervous, that you are not seeking his validation, but rather that you are exploring him for your own fascination, his pelvic floor relaxes, the tension in his thighs releases. You must view yourself as the queen in this scenario. You possess the power to give pleasure, and you possess the power to take it away. You are the one orchestrating his nervous system. When you internalize this, when you realize that you hold the power, your touch becomes firmer, your hesitation disappears, and he feels that shift instantly. He realizes he is in the hands of an expert, and that is the moment he finally exhales and prepares to be taken apart. Visual dominance. Now that you have taken mental control, you need to establish visual dominance. This is where so many women sabotage the moment without realizing it. Because we are nervous or self-conscious about our angles or afraid of seeing him look at us, we close our eyes, we hide, we bury our faces. But the trick requires a connection that bypasses the skin. It requires the eyes. Men are visual creatures. Their arousal is heavily linked to what they can see, but it goes deeper than just seeing your body. It is about mirror neurons. When he looks down and sees you looking up at him, eyes wide open, confident, unflinching, his brain fires a signal that amplifies his physical sensation by 10 times. Why? Because seeing you watch him validates his pleasure. It tells him, I am watching you fall apart and I love it. If you hide, he feels alone in the experience. But if you look at him, you trap him in the moment. So here is your challenge. When you begin, do not close your eyes. Look at him, watch his face, watch the way his expression changes. If you are feeling bold, lock eyes with him. This is incredibly confronting, I know. It feels intense, but that intensity is exactly what creates the full body reaction. You are stripping away the ability to hide. When you look at him with that level of focus, you are not just performing an act, you are claiming him. You are telling him that he is the center of your universe for these next few minutes. Do not underestimate the power of your gaze. It is the bridge that turns a physical sensation into an emotional avalanche. Keep your eyes open. The physiological setup, the nervous system reset. We have set the stage mentally. You are calm, you are dominant, you are looking at him. Now, we must set the stage physically, but here is where 90% of women make a critical error. They assume that because a man has a physical erection, he is ready. They dive straight for the main event immediately. This is a mistake. Just because the plumbing is working doesn't mean the nervous system is awake. If you touch the most sensitive part of his body while his nerves are still cold, the sensation will be dull. It will feel good, but it won't feel electric. You need to perform a nervous system reset. You need to wake up the entire neighborhood before you knock on the front door. I want you to spend the first 60 seconds touching everything except the target. Use your fingertips, start at his knees, trace a line slowly up his inner thigh. The skin on the inner thigh is incredibly thin and packed with nerve endings that connect directly to his pelvic region. By stimulating this area first, you are sending a warning signal to his brain. You are telling his body, get ready. Move your hands to his lower stomach, just above the hip bone. Graze the skin so lightly that it barely tickles. Do not touch the center yet. Avoid it deliberately. This creates a phenomenon called sensory deprivation. By stimulating the areas around the target, you make the target itself ache for attention. You are priming the pump. You are ensuring that when you finally do make contact, his nerves are screaming for it. Think of it like preheating an oven. You cannot bake a souffle in a cold oven, and you cannot give a man a full-body orgasm with a cold nervous system. Map the terrain first. Temperature play psychology. While you are waking up his nerves with your hands, you can introduce a second element that feels like magic to the male brain. Temperature. Our nerve endings are designed to adapt to pressure very quickly. That is why, after a few minutes of the same motion, a man might start to feel a little numb. But nerves never adapt to temperature changes. They stay alert. You can use this biology to your advantage. Before you initiate intimacy, keep a glass of warm water or tea by the bedside. Or conversely, a glass of ice water. If you take a sip of warm liquid right before you begin, your mouth becomes a source of intense radiating heat. When that warmth touches his skin, which is usually slightly cooler than internal body temperature, it sends a shockwave through his system. It increases blood flow instantly, swelling the tissues and making them hypersensitive. On the flip side, a sip of ice water or a cooling mint creates a sensation that feels almost electric. The cold tightens the skin, while the warmth of your breath creates a confusing high-contrast sensation that drives the nerves wild. The trick we are building toward works best when the variables are changing. If everything stays the same temperature, he gets bored. If the temperature fluctuates, his brain has to stay engaged to process the data. You don't need fancy toys or oils for this. A simple glass of water changes the game. It turns a standard physical act into a high-definition sensory experience. Choose your element, fire or ice. Experiment with it. Watch how his body twitches the moment that temperature contrast hits his skin. That twitch is the sign that his brain is coming online. The breath tease. You have mapped his body. You have prepared the temperature. You are hovering right over him. Every instinct in your body will tell you to touch him now. Don't. There is one final step to the setup. It is called the breath tease. I want you to bring your mouth incredibly close to him, so close that you are mere millimeters away, but do not make contact. Open your mouth and just breathe. Exhale a slow, heavy stream of hot air onto the most sensitive parts of his anatomy. Why do we do this? Biologically, his brain is predicting the touch. When he sees you close and feels your heat, his brain fires a massive spike of dopamine, the chemical of craving. It expects the sensation of touch. When you don't touch him, when you only give him the heat of your breath, you create a glitch in his prediction. His brain screams, "Where is it? I need it." This gap between expectation and reality creates an intense gravitational pull. He will likely involuntarily lift his hips to meet you. He will try to bridge the gap himself because the anticipation is becoming unbearable. Let him struggle for a few seconds. Let him feel the heat without the friction. Move your head slowly, painting him with your breath, up and down, left and right. Let him feel the humidity and the warmth. This is the ultimate form of edging. You are edging his brain before you have even touched his body. By the time you finally close that last millimeter of distance, he won't just feel it as a touch. He will feel it as a relief. He will feel it as a salvation. And that is exactly where we want him. The foundation of the trick, wetness and suction, the lubrication factor. We have finally arrived at the moment of contact, but before you apply the technique, we must correct the single most common physical error that ruins the experience for both of you. That error is friction. Many women treat oral intimacy like a dry massage. They use just enough moisture to make it work, but not enough to change the physics of the movement. If there is even a hint of drag, if your skin pulls against his skin, the sensation for him changes from pleasure to irritation. The skin on his anatomy is mucous membrane. It is incredibly delicate. When it is dry, it desensitizes itself to protect against chafing. This is why he might take forever to finish. His body is literally numbing itself to survive the friction. To execute the trick effectively, you must embrace the lubrication factor. You need to create an environment of zero friction, and I mean zero. The goal is to create a hydroseal. This means using far more saliva than you think is polite. We are often taught to be neat, to swallow excess fluid, to keep things tidy. In this context, tidiness is the enemy of ecstasy. You need to use your own natural lubrication or a high-quality water-based lubricant to coat him completely before you even begin the rhythmic movement. And when the area is fully slick, two things happen. First, every nerve ending wakes up because the threat of friction is gone. Second, and most importantly, the fluid fills the tiny gaps between your skin and his. This creates an airtight bond. It turns your mouth into a unified instrument rather than just two lips moving back and forth. Do not be afraid of the mess. The mess is the medium through which pleasure travels. Think of it like a water slide. Without the water, it's just a painful burn. With the water, it is a thrilling ride. So let go of the need to be dry. Embrace the glide. The wetter it is, the faster he falls. The vacuum principle, the core concept. Now we come to the core secret. This is the trick that separates 99% of women from the top 1%. Most women believe that oral intimacy is about motion, bobbing the head up and down or flicking the tongue. While those things are fine, they are not what causes a full-body orgasm. The secret is not motion. The secret is suction. This is called the vacuum principle. Think about the physics of it. If you just slide up and down, you are stimulating the skin on the surface. But the nerves that trigger the deepest, most explosive orgasms are buried deep inside the shaft. Surface friction cannot reach them. The only way to stimulate those deep nerves is to pull blood to the surface. And the only way to pull blood to the surface is to create a vacuum. Here is how you do it. When you take him in, you must form a tight seal with your lips against his base. You ensure there are no air gaps. Then, as you move, you gently suck the air out of your mouth, exactly like you are drinking a thick milkshake through a straw. You are creating negative pressure. This negative pressure does something incredible. It forces his anatomy to engorge. It pulls the blood into the nerve endings, making them swell. It turns his entire instrument into one giant pulsating receptor. When you combine this suction with the wetness we discussed in the last section, You create a sensation that feels like it is pulling his soul out of his body. He feels it in his stomach. He feels it in his toes. This is why men go crazy for this technique. It isn't just a touch, it is a magnetic pull. So stop focusing so much on how fast you are moving your head. Slow down, tighten the seal, and engage the vacuum. Focus on the pull. That pressure is what rewires his nervous system and prepares him for the release of a lifetime. The soft palate secret. I can hear some of you thinking, that sounds great, but physically I struggle. I have a gag reflex, my jaw hurts, I can't take him deep enough to create that seal. This is a valid fear. The fear of gagging is the #1 reason women tense up, and when you tense up, you use teeth. And teeth are the instant kill switch for his pleasure. To make the vacuum principle work, you need to master your own anatomy, specifically the soft palate. The soft palate is that fleshy part at the very back of the roof of your mouth. When we are nervous, it drops down, closing off the throat. This is what triggers the gag reflex. The secret to opening up and creating a cavernous space for him is to simulate a yawn. Right now, as you are listening to me, try to start a yawn. Feel the back of your throat lift. Feel how your tongue naturally flattens and your throat opens wide. That is the position you want to maintain. When you lift your soft palate, you are doing two things. One, you are suppressing your gag reflex, which makes the experience comfortable for you. You won't feel like you are choking. Two, you are creating a chamber for him. Instead of hitting the back of a wall, he is entering a soft, open space. This allows you to take him deeper without fear. And the deeper you can comfortably take him, the stronger the vacuum seal becomes. Don't force it. Practice that yawn sensation. Relax your jaw. When you are relaxed and open, you are not just accommodating him, you are enveloping him. Safety creates confidence, and when you know you aren't going to gag, you can focus entirely on driving him wild. The hand-mouth symphony, the mistake of the lonely mouth. You have mastered the vacuum, you understand the wetness, but there is a ceiling to how much pleasure you can give if you are only using your mouth. I call this the mistake of the lonely mouth, and almost biologically, the average man is physically larger than what your mouth can comfortably cover all at once. Even if you are skilled, and even if you use the soft palate technique we just discussed, there will always be a portion of his anatomy that is exposed to the cool air. Usually this is the base of the shaft. When you focus only on the top half with your mouth, leaving the bottom half untouched, you create a sensation disconnect. His brain is receiving intense signals from one area and zero signals from another. It feels disjointed. It prevents the full body immersion because he is constantly aware of the parts of him that are cold and neglected. To create an overwhelming experience, you must engage in the symphony. Think of your mouth as the lead violinist and your hand as the rest of the orchestra. They must play together. They must cover the entire instrument simultaneously. You need to bring your hand into the equation immediately. Your hand should be gripping the bass, the part your mouth cannot reach. It should be just as wet, just as warm, and moving in perfect rhythm with your head. When you do this, you eliminate the negative space. You ensure that every inch of his nerve endings is firing at the same time. The line between your mouth and your hand should blur so perfectly that if he were to close his eyes, he wouldn't be able to tell where your lips end and your fingers begin. That continuity is what breaks his reality. The twisting technique. Now that your hand is involved, we are not just going to use it for simple up and down friction. That is amateur hour. We are going to use it to add a dimension of sensation that the mouth simply cannot replicate. We are going to use the twisting technique. Standard stimulation is linear, up and down, back and forth. While this is good, the nerves eventually predict the pattern. As we discussed earlier, once the brain predicts the pattern, it starts to tune it out. To keep him on the edge of madness, you need to introduce torque. Here is how you do it. Grip the base of his anatomy firmly with your hand. As you move your mouth down, use your hand to gently twist the skin at the base. I am not talking about an Indian burn or anything painful. I mean a slow, deliberate rotation, perhaps only a quarter of a turn. Twist to the right as you go down, twist back to the center as you come up. Why does this work so effectively? The nerves in the shaft run vertically. When you apply linear friction, you are sliding along the nerves. But when you apply a twisting motion, you are dragging sensation across the nerves. This sends a completely different frequency of signal to the brain. It is disorienting in the best possible way. It feels like the sensation is spiraling through him rather than just sliding over him. You can also alternate, twist with your hand while your mouth stays still and creates the vacuum. Then keep your hand still and move your mouth. This separation of movement, where the top and bottom are doing different things, is incredibly intense. His brain tries to process both signals at once and fails. And when his logical brain fails to process the data, his primal brain takes over. This is the definition of mind-blowing. You are literally blowing the fuse of his sensory processing center. Practice this corkscrew motion. It requires a bit of coordination, like rubbing your stomach and patting your head. But once you find the rhythm, you will feel his hips react instantly. He won't be able to lie still. The perineum pressure. If you really want to guarantee a release that shakes his entire body, you have to be willing to touch the button that most women ignore. I am talking about the perineum. For those who don't know, this is the small patch of flat skin located between his equipment and his back door. It is often called the taint. Many women avoid this area because they think it is gross or they just don't know what to do with it. But you need to understand the anatomy. Directly underneath that patch of skin sits the prostate gland. The prostate is the male G-spot. It is the source of the most intense full-body pleasure a man can physically experience. You don't need to do anything invasive to stimulate it. You simply need to apply pressure. While your mouth is working the top and your main hand is twisting the base, use your free hand to reach underneath. Find that soft spot in the middle. Press firmly with 2 fingers. Do not poke, press, move in small circular motions. When you apply pressure here, you are massaging the prostate from the outside. You are stimulating the nerve center of his climax from a completely different angle. The effect is often immediate. You will likely hear his breathing change instantly. He might groan a sound deeper than usual. This is the cheat code. By attacking the nerves from the head with your mouth, the shaft with your hand, and the root with your perineum pressure, you are creating a trifecta of stimulation. There is nowhere for him to hide. He is completely surrounded by sensation, and that feeling of being surrounded is what triggers the total surrender we are chasing. The trick revealed, the Kiven method variation, the angle change. We have covered the basics of suction, wetness, and the hand-mouth symphony. Now, we are going to change the geometry of the entire act. If you are like most women, when you think of oral intimacy, you picture one specific position. You are kneeling between his legs, facing him head-on. While this is the classic standard, it is actually one of the least effective positions for triggering a full-body orgasm. Why? 2 reasons. First, for you, it is exhausting. Your neck is strained, gravity is working against your jaw, and your hands are at an awkward angle. When you are physically uncomfortable, you cannot maintain the rhythm necessary to break him. Second, and more importantly for him, the standard angle misses the most sensitive target on his body. The most sensitive part of the male anatomy is not the top, and it is not the front. It is the underside, specifically the frenulum. This is the small banjo string-like piece of skin that connects the head to the shaft on the underside. It is packed with more nerve endings than any other part of him. In the standard kneeling position, your tongue is hitting the top of him. You are essentially ignoring the goldmine underneath. To fix this, we are going to use a variation of the Kiven method. I want you to change your angle. Instead of being between his legs, move to his side. Or position yourself perpendicular to him, forming a T shape. When you approach him from the side or from a perpendicular angle, everything changes. Suddenly, you are not looking down at him, you are looking across him. You can lay your head comfortably on his thigh or the mattress, which relieves the tension in your neck. This allows you to go for much longer without fatigue, but the real magic is the access. From this side angle, when you take him into your mouth, your tongue naturally rests against the underside of his anatomy. You don't have to twist or strain to reach the frenulum. Your tongue is automatically massaging his most sensitive spot with every single movement. This simple shift in geometry forces the stimulation exactly where he needs it most, often without you having to try any harder. You are working smarter, not harder. You are hitting the bullseye simply by changing where you stand. The flattened tongue. Now that you are in the correct position, likely approaching from the side or perpendicular, we need to talk about the instrument itself, your tongue. This is where the difference between good and unforgettable lives. Many women treat their tongue like a dart. They point it, they stiffen it, they use the very tip to flick, poke, or swirl. While the tip of the tongue is sensitive for you, for him, a pointy tongue can actually be irritating. The nerve endings on the frenulum and the head are hypersensitive. A sharp, pointy muscle poking at them can feel scratchy or worse, ticklish. If he is laughing or squirming away, it's not because he's having fun. It's because his body is rejecting the sensation. Ticklishness is a defense mechanism. We do not want him defending himself. We want him surrendering. To create the full body effect, you must abandon the pointy tongue and master the flattened tongue. I want you to relax your tongue completely. Let it go wide. Imagine you are trying to lick peanut butter off the roof of your mouth. Feel how your tongue spreads out. Feel how broad and soft it becomes. That is the texture you want. When you apply the vacuum seal we discussed before, your tongue should be a flat, broad pad of muscle pressing up against the underside of his anatomy. Think of it less like a lick and more like a massage. You want to cover as much surface area as possible. When you slide up and down with a flattened tongue, you are stimulating thousands of nerve endings simultaneously. A pointy tongue stimulates maybe 50. The difference in data his brain receives is massive. This broad pressure feels encompassing. It feels heavy. It feels dominant. It signals to his brain that he is completely consumed by you. As you move, press that flat tongue firmly against the frenulum. Do not flutter it, just press and glide. The combination of the smooth, wet, broad pressure against that high voltage nerve center is often enough to make his eyes roll back in his head instantly. It requires conscious effort to keep the tongue relaxed. We tend to tense up when we concentrate, but keep checking in with yourself. Flatten it out, spread the pleasure. The vibration hum. We have the angle. We have a flat tongue. We have the vacuum. Now we are going to add the element that pushes him over the edge. We are going to turn your mouth into a vibrator. This sounds strange, but physically it is one of the most potent things you can do. Sound is just vibration. And vibration traveling through a liquid medium, the wetness is amplified. When you have him inside the vacuum seal, I want you to start humming. I don't mean a melody. I mean a deep, low, guttural hum. Think of the sound. Make the sound come from deep in your throat, not your nose. Here's the physics of why this works. The male anatomy is not just external. The urethra runs through the center of the shaft. When you hum against him, that vibration travels through the skin, into the fluids, and vibrates deep inside the internal structure of his body. He literally feels the sound inside of him. This is a sensation that no hand, no toy, and no standard movement can replicate. It feels like an internal massage. It rattles the nerves in a way that is confusingly pleasurable. You can vary the pitch. A lower pitch creates a slower, deeper rumble. A higher pitch creates a faster, buzzier vibration. Try this pattern. Slide down deep, and as you hold him at the deepest point, hum for 3 seconds. Then slide up, silence. Then slide down, hum again. This creates a reward loop. He starts to crave the depth because he knows the vibration is coming. It also serves a double purpose. The vibration feels incredible on your own lips and throat, which can be pleasurable for you. And for him, hearing you make noise, even if it is just a hum, validates that you are present and engaged. It creates that auditory loop we spoke about earlier, but mostly it creates a sensory overload. His brain is trying to process the suction, the temperature, the hand twisting, and now the vibration. He simply cannot keep up. His control center shuts down, and when the control center shuts down, the full body orgasm takes over. Hum him into submission. It is your secret superpower. Pacing and edging. The control. The 1 to 10 scale. You have the technique. You have the vibration. You have the suction. Now we must discuss the most critical variable of all, time. The biggest mistake most couples make is treating intimacy like a sprint. The goal becomes the finish. You start, you accelerate, you finish, and it's over. But a full-body orgasm, the kind that leaves him shaking and unable to speak, does not happen in a sprint. It happens in a marathon. It requires a slow, agonizing, beautiful buildup of pressure. To master this, I want you to visualize a scale from 1 to 10. 1 is completely relaxed. 10 is the point of no return, the climax. Most women try to get a man to 10 as quickly as possible. They think that speed equals skill. They think that if he finishes fast, they did a good job. But here is the secret. The magic doesn't happen at 10. The magic happens at 7. 7 is the simmer zone. It is that point where he is breathing heavily, his hips are moving, and he is fully engaged, but he isn't quite falling over the edge yet. Your goal is to get him to a 7 and then keep him there. Do not rush to 8 or 9. Hover at 7. Tease him with the idea of finishing, but don't give it to him yet. When you keep a man in this zone, denying him the release while keeping the pleasure high, his brain starts to panic in the best possible way. It floods his system with dopamine and adrenaline. It recruits more muscles to try and force the release. This recruitment of extra muscles is exactly what leads to the full body shake later on. You are winding up the spring tighter and tighter, so slow down. When you feel him getting too close, back off. Live in the 7. The stop-start technique. So how do you keep him at a 7 without accidentally pushing him to a 10? Or worse, how do you stop him from finishing too early if he is incredibly excited? You use the stop-start technique. This is the most effective form of edging known to man, but most people do it wrong. They stop everything completely, which breaks the trance. We don't want to break the trance, we just want to pause the progress. Here is how you execute it. You are applying the vacuum, the hand twist, and the vibration. You feel him tense up. You hear his breath catch. He is approaching the cliff edge. Instead of pulling away completely, simply stop moving. Keep him inside your mouth. Keep the vacuum seal tight. Keep your hand firmly on the base, but stop all friction. Freeze. This is a moment of profound psychological power. By stopping the motion but keeping the contact, you are sending a confusing signal to his body. The warmth is still there, the pressure is still there, but the rhythmic trigger for the climax has vanished. He will likely buck his hips. He will try to create the friction himself because his body is screaming for the release. Hold him firm. Use your hand to anchor his hips so he cannot move. Whisper to him, "Not yet." This command does two things. Physically, it gives his nervous system time to cool down from a 9 back to a 7. You are manually resetting his biological timer. Psychologically, it asserts your total dominance. You are telling him that you own his pleasure. You decide when he finishes. This denial is incredibly arousing. It spikes his desire because we always want what we are told we cannot have. Do this 3 or 4 times. Bring him to the edge, freeze, let him cool down, and then start again. Each time you bring him back from the edge, the eventual release builds in potential energy. Imagine a dam holding back water. The longer you hold the water back, the more powerful the flood will be when the dam finally breaks. Be the dam. Hold him back until he is begging for it. Reading the microsignals, to effectively stop and start, you need to be a detective. You cannot wait for him to tell you he is close. By the time he says, "I'm close," it is usually too late. The biological chain reaction has already begun. You need to read his body before his brain even registers the urgency. You need to look for the microsignals. Every man has a tell. Yeah, a small involuntary movement that happens right before he crosses the line from pleasure to point of no return. The most common signal is the toe curl. Watch his feet. When a man is relaxing and enjoying it, his feet are usually loose. But the moment he approaches the cliff, his toes will curl inward or flex hard. And this is a reflex connected to the pelvic nerve. When you see the toes curl, freeze. That is your red light. The second signal is the hip twitch. If his hips start to jerk rhythmically or spasmodically rather than rolling smoothly, his muscles are preparing for ejaculation. That is a warning sign. The third signal is the breath hitch. Listen to his breathing. Is it a steady rhythm? In, out, in, out. Good. Suddenly, does he hold his breath? Does he stop breathing for 3 seconds? That is him subconsciously trying to tighten his core to force the release. If you spot these signals, the toes, the twitch, or the breath hold, you must act immediately. Stop the motion. Apply the stop-start technique we just discussed. When you can read his body better than he can, you become a sorceress in his eyes. He will wonder how you know exactly when to stop. He won't realize you are just watching his toes. Master these signals, and you will never accidentally finish the session too early again. The sensory overload deep throat psychology. We are now entering the territory of high-intensity sensation. We need to discuss depth. I know this topic often causes anxiety. The phrase deep throat summons images of discomfort, choking, or aggressive scenes from adult movies. I want you to erase those images. In the context of the trick, depth is not about endurance or pain. It is about the psychological sensation of total envelopment. For a man, the sensation of depth is profound. When he feels himself sliding past the usual boundary, entering the deeper warmth of your throat, it triggers a primal feeling of being consumed. It is the ultimate embrace. Physically, the base of his anatomy is pressed firmly against your lips, and the head is surrounded by the softest, warmest muscle tissue in your body. It feels like he is disappearing inside you, but here is the secret. You do not need to stay there. The technique is called the dip. You do not need to hold him deep for minutes at a time. That is unnecessary and uncomfortable. Instead, you use depth as a momentary shock. While you are using the Kivin angle and the vacuum suction, wait for his rhythm to stabilize. Then, relax your throat and slide down swiftly, taking him fully in for just 1 second. Then slide back up to a comfortable shallow depth. That split second of fullness sends a shockwave through his nervous system. It surprises him. It spikes his adrenaline. He feels that intense warmth surrounds the most sensitive part of him, and then, just as quickly, it is gone. This peekaboo with depth is incredibly teasing. It gives him an intense sensation without causing you any distress. Use it sparingly. Use it as an accent point. Do it once every minute or so to keep him on his toes. That momentary feeling of being completely taken by you is often the catalyst that pushes his arousal from manageable to overwhelming. The temperature shock. Before, we talked about using temperature as a warm-up. Now we are going to use it as a weapon of mass sensation. The nerves in the male anatomy are easily confused. When the brain receives contradictory signals, like hot and cold simultaneously, it struggles to process the information. In that confusion, the brain interprets the data simply as intense intensity. It creates a feeling that is neither hot nor cold, but purely electric. We are going to use the temperature shock. To do this, you need 2 glasses by the bed. One with ice water, one with warm tea or hot water. Start with the warm, take a sip, hold it in your cheeks for a moment to heat up your mouth, and then engage the vacuum suction. The heat will relax the blood vessels and engorge the tissues. Do this for 30 seconds, then immediately switch. Take a sip of the ice water. Cool your mouth down until it feels frosty. Then go back to the suction. The sudden shift from tropical heat to Arctic cold causes the blood vessels to constrict rapidly. This physical contraction creates a tingling, tightening sensation that feels wildly different from anything he has felt before. Then switch back to hot. This rapid cycling, hot, cold, sends his nerves into overdrive. It is sensory overload. His body doesn't know whether to relax or tighten, so it does both. It creates a pulsating effect in his anatomy that mirrors the feeling of an orgasm before he has even reached the climax. You are hacking his biology. You are forcing his nerves to fire rapidly to keep up with the changing environment. If you really want to be advanced, Keep an ice cube in your mouth while using a warm hand on the base. Fire and ice at the same time. The contrast is enough to make a grown man whimper. The auditory anchor. We have overloaded his sense of touch. We have overloaded his sense of temperature. Now we must overload his hearing. We briefly mentioned humming earlier, but now we must talk about the broader spectrum of the auditory anchor. Yeah. Many women are silent during oral intimacy. They concentrate so hard on the technique that they forget to make noise, or they feel self-conscious, thinking that making noise sounds fake or pornographic. But silence is dangerous. Silence leaves room for his mind to wander. Silence makes him wonder, is she enjoying this? Is she bored? Is her jaw hurting? Is she looking at the clock? When he starts thinking these things, his erection weakens. His anxiety spikes. You must fill the silence. You don't need to scream. You need to create a soundscape of wetness and pleasure. So first, do not be afraid of the wet sounds. The sound of the suction, that sloppy, wet friction noise, is incredibly arousing to the male primal brain. It signals that it is wet, slippery, and active. Do not try to be quiet. Let it be messy. The messier it sounds, the dirtier it feels to him. Second, you must vocalize your own enjoyment. A low moan, a soft sigh, a grunt of effort. Why is this so critical for the full body experience? Because men are ego-driven creatures. His pleasure is inextricably linked to your pleasure. If he believes that you are getting turned on by pleasuring him, his ego soars. He feels like a king. He feels powerful. And when a man feels powerful and validated, he gives himself permission to release fully. So let him hear you. Let him hear the wetness. Let him hear your breath hitching. Say things like, you taste so good, or simply, These sounds act as an anchor. They tell his brain, she loves this. You are safe. You are a stud. Let go. Sound is the final layer of the sensory trap. Once you close that loop, there is no escape for him. The release, the full body event. Recognizing the point of no return. We have spent the last 15 minutes building the pressure. We teased him, we have edged him, we have mapped his nerves. Now we are approaching the summit. But timing is everything. If you change your technique too early, you kill the buildup. If you change it too late, you miss the opportunity to create the full body shake. You must learn to recognize the point of no return. This is a specific physiological phase known as ejaculatory inevitability. It is the split second where his body takes over completely. Even if he wanted to stop, he couldn't. The train has left the station. How do you spot it? Before this, we talked about microsignals like toe curling. Those were warning signs. The point of no return looks different. It is more aggressive. First, watch his hips. Throughout the session, he has likely been moving in rhythm with you, a fluid, circular, or rocking motion. When he hits the point of no return, that rhythm breaks. His hips will likely snap forward and lock. He will become rigid. He is instinctively trying to bury himself as deep as possible to maximize the friction. Second, listen to his vocalization. If he has been moaning or breathing heavily, he might suddenly go completely silent, or if he has been silent, he might suddenly let out a sharp guttural sound. It is a sudden, involuntary shift in his state. Third, feel his thighs. The muscles in his quads will turn to stone. He is bracing himself against the mattress. When you feel him lock his hips, tense his thighs, and hold his breath simultaneously, do not ask him if he is close. You know he is there. This is the signal. This is the moment where you must abandon the slow, teasing rhythm and flip the switch to maximum intensity. The time for teasing is over. The intensity switch. Here is the mistake that prevents the full-body orgasm from happening. Most women, when they realize a man is finishing, instinctively back off. They loosen their lips. They slow down their hands. They think, he is sensitive right now. I should be gentle so I don't hurt him. No. While the head is hypersensitive after he finishes, during the release, his nerves are screaming for overload. If you back off now, the orgasm will be a fizzle. It will be a relief, sure, but it won't be an earthquake. To create the shake, the kind where his vision blurs and he feels it in his teeth, you must execute the intensity switch. At the exact moment you feel him spasm, I want you to do 3 things simultaneously. Tighten the vacuum. Suck harder than you have the entire time. Collapse your cheeks completely. You want to create a pressure that feels like you are trying to pull the fluids out of him. Speed up the hand. Your hand on the base needs to move faster. Not harder, but faster. Create a blur of motion at the root. Do not stop. Even when he starts releasing, keep going. This concept is called overstimulation. Normally, overstimulation is uncomfortable, but during the orgasm, his brain is flooded with endorphins that mask pain and amplify pleasure. By continuing the intense suction and speed through the climax, you are forcing his nerves to keep firing even as they try to shut down. This conflict, the nerves trying to rest versus you forcing them to fire, causes a systemic feedback loop. His nervous system gets overwhelmed. It has no choice but to discharge that excess energy into the rest of his muscles. This is why his legs shake. This is why his back arches. This is why he might grab the sheets or your hair. His body is literally vibrating with the excess energy you are creating. Do not be afraid of his reaction. If he shakes, if he cries out, if he twitches violently, you are doing it right. You are wringing every drop of pleasure out of his system. Commit to the finish. Be relentless. Accepting the release. The storm has broken, the intensity is fading, but the interaction is not over. How you react in the 5 seconds after he finishes determines how he feels about himself and how he feels about you for the rest of the day. Many women recoil, they pull away instantly, wipe their mouths with a look of disgust, or run to the bathroom to spit. I understand that fluids can be messy. I understand it is not everyone's favorite texture. But you must understand the psychology of the male ego. To him, that fluid is his essence. It is the physical manifestation of his desire for you. If you treat it like toxic waste, you are subconsciously rejecting him. You are telling him your desire is gross. This kills the intimacy immediately. To seal the bond, you must practice acceptance. This does not mean you have to swallow if you don't want to. That is a personal choice, and you should never feel pressured. But you must accept the event with grace. If he releases inside your mouth, hold it there for a moment. Don't rush. Let him see that you are not disgusted. If he releases on his stomach or chest, use your hand to spread it gently across his skin. Touch it, own it, look at him while you do this. Smile. This simple lack of repulsion is incredibly powerful. It validates him on a primal level. It tells him, I accept all of you, the clean parts, the messy parts, the intense parts. When a man feels that level of acceptance, he feels a profound sense of gratitude. He feels safe, and that safety is what allows him to fall into the deep, vulnerable relaxation that comes next. Don't break the spell by running away. Stay in the mess for just a moment. It's worth it. The aftercare and emotional bond, the dopamine crash. The climax is over. The storm has passed. And now you might notice something that feels confusing or even hurtful. He turns away, he closes his eyes, he goes silent. Maybe he falls asleep within 60 seconds. For many women, this moment feels like abandonment. You just shared this incredibly intense experience, and now suddenly he is gone. You might think, did he just use me? Does he not care about cuddling? Is he bored now? I want you to stop that train of thought immediately. What you are witnessing is not emotional withdrawal, it is a biological crash. It is called the refractory period. The moment a man releases, his brain is flooded with a chemical called prolactin. Prolactin is the satiety hormone. It suppresses dopamine, desire, and testosterone, energy. It basically tells his body, mission accomplished, shut down all systems to recover. This chemical wash makes him physically incapable of maintaining high energy. He literally cannot help it. His battery has dropped from 100% to 0% in 3 seconds. If you try to force him to talk about his feelings, or if you demand high energy attention right now, you are fighting his biology. He will associate you with stress, not peace. Instead of feeling rejected, realize that his crash is a compliment. The deeper he crashes, the more intense the release was. You drained him completely, so do not take it personally. Let him have his silence. Let him drift. Your job at this moment is not to demand attention, but to simply be a calm presence. Lay your hand on his chest, match his breathing, be the safe harbor where he can dock his ship. When you accept his silence without judgment, he subconsciously learns that you are the safest place in the world. Anchoring the memory. While his body is shutting down, his subconscious mind is actually wide open. This is a phenomenon known as the afterglow window. For about 5 minutes after the release, his logical defenses are down. He is in a state of pure vulnerability. This is the perfect time to plant a psychological anchor. An anchor is a stimulus, a word, a touch, or a smell that triggers a specific memory. You want to anchor this feeling of bliss specifically to you. Lean in close to his ear. Do not ask him a question. Do not ask, was that good? Asking for validation breaks the spell. Instead, give him a statement of affirmation. Whisper something simple and possessive. I love making you feel good. You are so beautiful when you let go. That was amazing. Use his name. When you whisper these positive affirmations while he is swimming in endorphins, his brain wires those two things together. He starts to associate the sound of your voice with the feeling of ultimate pleasure. You are hacking his memory centers. The next time he hears your voice, even if you are just asking him to take out the trash, a tiny part of his brain will trigger that memory of pleasure. You become a walking dopamine trigger for him. So don't stay silent, but don't chatter. Just drop 1 or 2 golden sentences into his ear and let them sink into his subconscious like a seed. That seed will grow into obsession. The feedback loop. Finally, we need to talk about the future. The trick we discussed in this video is a framework, but every man is slightly different. Some men love the vibration hum, others prefer the twisting hand. Some men need more suction, others need less. To become the absolute master of his body, you need data, but you must gather this data at the right time. Do not ask for feedback immediately after sex. As we discussed, his brain is offline. He will just say, "It was great," and go to sleep. Wait for the feedback loop. Ask him the next day, maybe while you are driving or eating dinner, when the pressure is off. Say this: "Last night was fun. I really liked X. What was your favorite part?" By framing it positively first, you make it safe for him to answer. He might say, "I loved when you used your hand like that," or "I loved the deep part." Listen carefully. Whatever he mentions is his super trigger. If he says he loved the twisting motion, next time double down on that. And if he says he loved the eye contact, next time Never look away. This feedback loop ensures that you aren't just guessing, you are calibrating. You are becoming a customized expert on his pleasure. When a man realizes that you actually care about what he likes and that you remember it, he feels seen. And being seen is the ultimate form of love. Empowerment. You are the prize. We have reached the end of this journey. Over the last hour, we have dissected the anatomy, the psychology, and the physics of male pleasure. You have learned about the vacuum principle, the hand-mouth symphony, the Kivin angle, and the art of sensory overload. You now possess a roadmap that 99% of women will never see. You have the technical skills to bring a man to his knees, but I want to leave you with one final truth that is more important than any technique I have taught you today. You are the prize. It is easy to watch a video like this and think, I need to do all of this work just to keep him happy. It is easy to feel like you are performing for his approval. I want you to flip that script forever. Oral intimacy is not a duty you perform. It is a gift you choose to bestow. When you use these techniques, when you control his breath, his pulse, and his sanity, you are not serving him. You are mastering him. You are displaying your power. You are showing him that you are a woman of infinite depth, skill, and passion. The trick isn't really about the suction or the twisting hand. The real trick is your confidence. When you walk into the bedroom knowing that you have the ability to rock his world, you carry yourself differently. You don't feel nervous anymore. You feel dangerous. You feel magnetic. And that energy is what makes a man obsessed. He is lucky to have you. He is lucky to be touched by you. Never forget that. Take these secrets. Experiment with them. Have fun with them. But always remember that the source of the magic is you. If this video gave you a new perspective on intimacy, or if you learned something new, please click the subscribe button. We are building a community of women who are unapologetic about their desires and their power. I would love for you to be a part of it. Go out there and own the moment. You are unforgettable. I'll see you in the next video.